Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining today. So far, we are seeing another choppy day in the market. The SPY isn't really moving too much. S&P 500 futures are only up around 0.3%, which is not too much. It was trying to run up earlier this morning, but we definitely got rejected off of resistance. So that's just something to keep in mind. AMD stock is popping up relatively well this morning on some relatively big news with Google. So that's awesome to see. Someone threw up a screenshot in the Discord, and it said that AMD expands collaboration with Google Cloud to deliver the faster application performance and elevate business productivity. So that's good to see there. But Tom, what are you watching heading into today?
Yeah, I mean, AMD is honestly going to be a big one with the way it's popping up. I'm really going to be watching them at open today, but I was really keeping my eye still on Apple and Microsoft. They've been really choppy the past couple of days, especially yesterday with Apple, and I'm really waiting for kind of a breakout here, either below 142 or above 144. And man, it looks like we might be able to get a nice pop to the upside at some point today. It just looks like the market's kind of pointing back up, and if AMD starts ripping it open, I would not be surprised to see the SPY kind of turn itself back up. But man, there's a lot of stuff going on with Congress right now. And I feel like a lot of these events and catalysts, especially like with Congress, this is going to seriously be a pretty big thing today. It says that Congress is going to move today to prevent a government shutdown before the midnight deadline tonight. So there's definitely going to be a lot of stuff going on. And who knows, it could possibly happen mostly in after hours tonight.
Good stuff. So welcome Hunter, Keisha, David, Jamie, Sean, Jorge, the other David, Iranical, and Spacely. So thank you guys so much for joining. We have Sean saying, I thought people were asking for General Motors right out of the gate with GM. Good morning. So let's take a look at General Motors. They've been trending up pretty well over the past couple weeks, and I actually like the play.
Yeah, me too. And they've been flat this week pretty much, just pretty much staying between 52.50 and $54. But I feel like that they're pretty good too. And even if they end up going down for the next week or so, I like them in the long term, and I like Ford as well. I think both of these companies are pretty big underdogs right now. Everyone's talking about Tesla, Lucid, Workhorse, NIO, and stocks like that. But man, I mean, the big players, Ford and GM, who have been around forever, should do pretty well too.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the valuation Tesla's at. Some investors might be wanting to invest into the EV space, but maybe instead of investing a ton in a Tesla, they might only invest a little bit and then put the rest of that I guess you could say the rest of that capital into some of these other companies like GM, Ford, maybe NIO, maybe Lucid, stuff like that. So I can actually see it, especially when looking at the charts of Ford and GM, they're definitely popping up, and even Lucid's been doing pretty well.
Yeah, Lucid's honestly been moving up very well from its lows. And I know that the EV sector is just really set to pop. I mean, over the next few years, there's going to be different laws coming out of different states that are going to require some vehicles to be electric, maybe state funded vehicles and different stuff like that. So it's pretty big stuff for the future. People are really talking about it as being one of those big advancements, and especially to help with the pollution and everything. So seems like something pretty good. And especially, like I said, if they start making laws about it, I know California already has some laws being talked about where by 2025 they have to have half of their state vehicles electric and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So yeah, it's definitely a really a lot. It's a really I guess you can see a really growing industry. We can say we're seeing a bunch of car manufacturers switch over to that the electric side, or at least offer more hybrid versions.
Yeah, and then the big thing is that technology keeps advancing and advancing, and eventually, hopefully, we have some batteries with some crazy life to them. 500-hour charges in some smaller cars, and maybe like a 600-mile battery. If we could start to get up to stuff like that, I think it would make big advancements. Right now, while it's lower, a lot of people have excuses to stick with the gasoline cars. But sometimes, it would just make total sense if you had a Tesla with a 600-mile range. I mean, that would just blow anything out of the water almost.
Right, so we have Rick saying, sorry I'm late. Well, you joined, so that's all that matters. So welcome to the stream, Rick. Welcome, Alex, Michael, Sean. So let's take a look. We have Jorge mentioning SPCE, which is up 9% on the day. Talk about a great pop. Great way to start the day.
Yeah, this was actually a big move.
Yeah, so what levels do you have for us?
Honestly, like it moved a lot yesterday and after hours. I think it's going to be pretty hard to break that high up there, right around 25.25. I think that's going to be a big level to go through. But man, this is bouncing pretty strong here at open. And if we see this momentum continuing, it could definitely break that today and possibly go even higher. But man, I know the SPCE has had some pretty bad movement lately. I know that they've really had some bad moves to the downside, but I did see that the FAA was kind of concluding an investigation or concluding a probe that they launched on SPCE. So that's a pretty big thing to hear, and that's probably why they're popping up.
All right, so we have, let's see, we have Michael saying, good morning, guys. Getting killed in Ride. News came out that they are being bought out by Foxconn. Is that good or bad news? And what do you see long term for Ride? So it's pretty good news whenever a company is being bought out. I did not read the news yet. I didn't even see it or hear about it until you brought it up. But generally speaking, whenever a company is bought out or acquired or merges, it's normally pretty good news. Honestly, I have not heard too many good things about Ride. But then again, they are in an industry that is growing very, very quickly. So, like I definitely wouldn't short them. And I believe they actually have a pretty high short float too. So, honestly, just it's not really a play for me. It's at a pretty good level, and honestly, I feel like it could be a pretty solid momentum play for the next couple weeks. But like for a long-term hold, I just like other stocks better.
Yeah, and it has a lot of momentum right now. It really broke that resistance right around $8, and it's already up to $8.70 right now. And I'm actually reading, Mike, in the deals that they made that this company Foxconn that's actually acquiring Ride here is actually an Apple supplier, which is a pretty big deal because I know Apple's been talking a lot lately about getting into that into the EV space, and man, if this company is buying up Ride, they might be working with Apple in a way to somehow maybe help supply Apple for some of their like iCar parts, or who knows. It sounds like a pretty big revelation though, and I just saying it because it's just a company that helps out Apple and they supply Apple with chips and stuff. So hopefully Foxconn can get going, and obviously this is a great acquisition. And like we talked about earlier, this EV sector has started, it's just gotten so hot over the past couple of years that obviously I think it's a great move by Foxconn to make this acquisition. But either way, I mean, if Apple ends up playing a role in this, that could be even bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna have to look into the deal more. It sounds very interesting, and stock's really popping off. Like we were up like 17% a minute ago, now we're up 20%, and it's still going. The momentum's pretty good, volume's pretty good. It's really starting to break out. So definitely keep this one on your radar. And huge shout out Michael for bringing it up. Then we have Sean saying any levels on AMC. Got some 36 strike puts for October 8th. So let's take a look at it. I mean, it's falling down, which is great to see. Got the 36 strike put, which is in the money. So I think it's looking pretty good right now. What do you have for us, Tom?
Yeah, I see the next support here right around $33, but I really like that play with those puts. I love how it continued down from yesterday. Now, really expect maybe for it to bounce off this 33 support or somewhere very, very close, but I'm seeing $33 if we keep moving to the downside, and then below that, I'm seeing $30. If we end up moving up, I'm seeing $40 as being the next major resistance. But man, to the downside, really watch 33 and then watch 30. But I think that this play you're in with puts is a great play, and I really like the play, especially given what we saw yesterday with AMC. I could really see it falling lower to that 33 support eventually.
Love to see it. And then we have Sean saying his eyes are on Tesla. It's in a wedge, hoping for a pop up. So, Tom, I know a lot of people have been talking about Tesla lately, and I know it's been, just like lingering around your trend line for a while now. So, like, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's just on this long-term chart. It's been, like you said, right between this trend, and it's been really hovering around this blue trend line. My thoughts have been pretty concrete. If we break above $800, I'll be really bullish on this, and that I think that we'll finally have broken this trend and we might be able to go back to the upside. But if we fail to break 800 over the next couple of days and we continue to see bounces to the downside off of this blue trend line, I'm going to really look at Tesla back to the downside over the next couple weeks. And, I love Tesla for the long term. So I'm pretty biased for them to the upside, but I'm just looking at this like, hey, we're bouncing off resistance. We've hit this trend line again. And every time we touch it, it seems like we go down. So I'm really going to be watching it. If it can't break 800, I think I'll just look at some bearish positions or maybe just wait, just wait for it to drop a little bit. And then I'll be able to sell some puts, and there'll be a whole bunch of different opportunities once this ends up falling. But, if we break 800, then you can just get into a nice momentum play too. So you can definitely play it to the upside if you want to. I just recommend really waiting for it to break that resistance because there's been a lot of bounces right there.
Right, we have Iranco saying AMD is flying. So yeah, I know they had that Google News. Now they're up 3% on the day. They are having a huge bounce off that 100 support, and it definitely has a lot of momentum.
Yeah, it does. That's a great move to the upside. And man, anytime a company partners with Google, that's awesome. But the fact that it's AMD almost makes it even better. I mean, both are just such popular companies, and they're just both powerhouses. So it's great to see that they struck a deal like this. And I know that those AMD EPYC processors are supposed to be pretty good. So hopefully Google likes them, and I hope that it ends up helping both companies. But I'm really glad that it made AMD turn around because AMD was right on that $100 support, and it honestly held it so well. We probably should have been buying off this $100 support, knowing that would just, like it's just such a big psychological level. $100 is always on most stocks a pretty big level to watch for, and we hit right off of it, came right back to the upside, and it's just a perfect move off support.
All right, and then we have Jorge saying SPCE, Virgin Galactic cleared to fly following conclusion of FAA inquiries. So yeah, I saw that news after market close yesterday, and the stock boomed up, and it was looking so good a couple minutes ago. It's still up 8% on the day, which is awesome, but it's definitely facing a little bit of resistance at that $25 level.
Yeah, it is. And, relatively to like for this news, I would have expected almost a bigger bounce out of SPCE than what we're seeing right now. It's only moved up to like where we were at on Tuesday. So it's not like we've really gained that much as far as, like we haven't like went up like for like a month's worth of movement, or if we would have went up to 30 or something like that, I think it would have been I think it would have been received a lot better, but the news just wasn't received well, I don't think. And it just hasn't moved up as much as people would have liked, at least today. But honestly, I think that's great news. And I think that they could possibly pop once they have more launches. And, this company is really news driven. They like to pop on news and they like to fall on news. So really keep your eye open. If they start to set some launch dates and stuff like that, you can definitely see this one start to pop off again. And we could also see stocks like ASTR, they were popping off on some launches a little while ago, as well as RKLB, which is Rocket Lab.
Love to see it. So, welcome Vicky to the stream. Good morning to you. Tom, I know Dollar Tree had an amazing day yesterday. What are your thoughts today? I know that they're coming down just a little bit. They're back below that $100 resistance, DLTR. They have a lot of momentum right now overall. What are your thoughts on this setup?
I love the way it's breaking to the upside. It's had such good moves. My only problem is that how it's kind of falling below that $100 resistance again. Unfortunately, that $100 level is coming into play on Dollar Tree, just like it came into play on AMD. And it looks like this time, though, it's coming in play to the downside. And man, that's just going to be a really tough resistance. Personally, I think it popped a little bit too much yesterday morning on that news. So I think that it has some chance to keep going down today. Now, I think for the long term, it could end up doing pretty well. But look at this on the daily chart. That was a crazy gap to the upside. And I just have a weird feeling that we might continue down today. But either way, I mean, it's definitely a hot stock. Keep it on the radar. But man, if we could break up above 101.43, I think the run could be pretty significant. But it's looking like right now we just keep breaking to the downside ever since open.
Gotcha. All right, so we have David saying, can you provide feedback on Mara and crypto miners in general? So to be completely honest with you, I don't follow these ones too much. I'm not like a huge fan of Mara and Riot. So I'm just going to say that right off the bat. I am not an expert with these ones. However, if you're looking to invest into cryptocurrencies or anything like that, I think it would just be a lot smarter to just buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever crypto you want to buy directly, and then just hold it like that. Some people just try to play Bitcoin through like Mara and Riot's movement, but I know there's a lot there's more factors that go into these stock prices besides the price of Bitcoin. So just keep that in mind. But besides that, I don't really follow these ones too much, so I don't have like a great answer for you.
Yeah, and the good news is that like Maro's at the $30 support, so I feel like that there could be a nice bounce maybe over the next few weeks or something there. Same thing with Riot. You're getting down to like one of those longer term supports around $22 to $20. So I feel like they're in good buying opportunities right now for the long term. If you must trade those stocks, then I think that they're in great times to buy. And I will say slash BTC, which is the Bitcoin futures, it's honestly turning around pretty well today, Mike, up 5%, up $2,000 on the day. And who knows, if Bitcoin starts to turn around, I could see Mara and Riot starting to really turn around. And personally, I would rather trade Mara over Riot. Just looking at the chart, I just like their movement a lot better.
Gotcha. So what are your thoughts? Let's say you're someone that's looking to just play momentum with Bitcoin. Would you rather would you rather play Mara and Riot, or would you rather go with cryptos, or does it depend?
Personally, I would rather just go with Mara and Riot, but that's just because I could probably buy calls on, Mara or Riot and then maybe make some leverage that way. But if not, I think shares of those companies are decent too. But like you said, they don't always move exactly with Bitcoin, that's the main problem. If Bitcoin flies up, you'd really want to see Mara flying up. And like we're seeing today, Bitcoin's up 5%, Mara's up 3.5%. So if you would have bought Bitcoin, you'd honestly be doing better right now than if you bought Mara. So it's really there's a lot of give and take there. I like how these stocks have options on them, which is why I like them a little bit. But I will say though, slash BTC moves well enough on its own that if you can trade it, I think it's a smart thing to just trade that all on its own. But I do like the options on Mara and Riot. It's too bad that there's no. I know you can trade like Bitcoin futures options and stuff, but it's too bad there's no maybe Bitcoin ETF yet, Mike, like we've really been waiting for. I think once those finally come out, that'll be like the main way to trade Bitcoin once that happens.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that because, really, I look at Bitcoin and these other cryptos and I'm just like, man, I wish I could sell some puts on this dip. And
yeah, that'd be awesome.
I know. And I know that there's some overseas, I don't know if it's necessarily overseas, but I know that there's some options or Bitcoin options exchanges, but I was looking into them and it's just I don't know. They're not official, so I just kind of stayed away from it. But like you said, I'm really waiting for that Bitcoin ETF. I'll be selling a bunch of puts on it, and I feel like it'll give traders more more opportunity, especially when it comes to trading Bitcoin, because you can't really just buy calls on Bitcoin like you can on most other commodities or gold, silver, whatever. So I don't know. I'm just excited for that, and as of right now, kind of like what you said. If you're looking for that leverage, Mara and Riot can be pretty good because you could go with calls on it. But another thing to keep in mind is if you really wanted to leverage just Bitcoin directly, I know that a lot of these platforms like BlockFi and a bunch of other ones allow you to take out margin on Bitcoin. I'm not saying it's a smart idea, but I just want to throw that in.
Oh yeah, I actually forgot about that. And don't they actually? I think they actually let you do a lot more than normal stock margin, don't they?
I think so. I don't know the exact numbers because it's just not something I'm interested in. But I know that BlockFi, Coinbase, and a couple other ones they make a lot of money from that the interest on the money used to buy Bitcoin and other cryptos. So I don't know. I'm actually curious how much the rates are. Let me take a look real quick.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And man, Coinbase is honestly sitting down here by support too. And I'll be honest, if you guys like a good crypto play for the long term, I think Coinbase is in an awesome spot right now. They had those good earnings and a pretty good outlook last time, and that's honestly pretty good. They had a 6 EPS versus a 2.26 estimate last time. That honestly blew estimates out of the water. I could see this stock doing pretty well in the future.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it right now, and it looks like, let's see. So your collateral has to be 50% of the loan to value, and then it looks like the rate is 4.5%. So I'm just looking at that right now. I mean, it doesn't sound too bad, 4.5%. But then again, like, if you get caught in a bad position, and let's say you buy Bitcoin at 55K, and then we see a drop, you can get screwed over pretty bad.
Yeah, and sometimes even if you have like if you're over leveraging it and it drops like that, like let's say it falls down 50%, but you bought 50% extra of your account with it, or even double your account in Bitcoin. I mean, that could end up that could really wipe your whole account right there on one trade. So be really careful doing stuff with leverage, guys. But I think that it'll be a really good way for these companies like Coinbase though to make a lot of money. So if you want to take advantage of those interest rates and stuff, maybe just buy some Coinbase shares. Honestly, that could be pretty good.
Yep. All right. And then we have Jorge saying CHPT back at the $20 support again. On the other hand, BLNK seems to want to break out. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on with these two. Like they're back and forth. And CHPT and both, actually, BLNK were looking pretty good over the past week.
Yeah, they were. I don't know what happened. They really turned around. I know CHPT yesterday had that great run at open, and it looked like they were going to finally have that type of breakout everybody was looking for. And then it just turned right back around. It broke out by like 10 cents and then just faked everybody out, it seemed. But yeah, I mean, they're both coming right back. And I wonder if this has stuff to do with Congress, Mike, because I know that they're talking about passing those infrastructure bills and stuff like that. And these companies were supposed to have some funding and stuff in there. And I'm really curious to see if that funding is going to still be in there whenever they finally pass these bills and stuff. And hopefully it is. Nobody really knows like what they're going to end up changing and stuff. So we'll have to see, but those votes should be coming up pretty soon. And who knows, maybe it's just we might see CHPT fall below the 20 support, and then they pass that infrastructure bill and the stock flies right back up. So, it can be really hard to trade these right now with the way that catalyst is going.
Right, and then we have Hunter saying DraftKings and Palantir close to going green to red. So I don't like to hear that. No. So DraftKings is technically still in the green right now by 0.3%. Palantir in the green by 0.01%. So yeah, I don't like it. I'm looking for a turnaround pretty soon.
Yeah, not good. Palantir looks way worse to me than DraftKings does intraday. But yeah, it's not looking good. They're both kind of going to the downside right now. And they're both really popular stocks. And, DraftKings, I think that they're going to be great for the long term. I love it that they're falling down. And hey, this 48 support's pretty good. So if we can hold somewhere around 48 like we are, I think we might be able to get a nice pop back up. But I really like DraftKings. And, I think that they're set to do so well over the next few years that with the way that they fell from 65 down to 48, I mean, I'm really looking at grabbing some shares here. And I know lots of people have been grabbing some on the way down. So really take advantage of this opportunity, guys. I'm not sure how low or how much lower DraftKings can get, but I don't think that we would be able to fall back below $40 or $45 again.
Don't jinx it, Tom.
Yeah. I better not say anything or else we'll be at $30 by next week.
All right, and then we have Vicky saying, run for support and resistance, please. So RUN, it's looking pretty good today, up 3% already. What do you have for us?
I have a pretty good support at $40. And, it reminds me of these other plays like we're seeing kind of like CHPT, BLNK. I throw it into that same sector / same space. And just looking at it, it's having a nice pop today. Like I said, they're right around that $40 support. So it's going to be really hard to say. It reminds me of like a BLNK today, though. It is coming back up, but it had a pretty bad week so far. And I'm really hoping to see some good momentum come back into this stock. But as far as support and resistance goes, it looks like that support is going to be right around 41.50, Vicky. We've definitely bounced right around there the past few days pretty well. So 41.50 as support. And then as resistance, I'm seeing a big one right at 43, kind of like where we're consolidating right now. And then after 43, the next one I'm seeing is at 44.
Alrighty, and then we have Sean saying Tesla run. Made a good $240 so far. So yeah, talk about a great recovery so far this morning with Tesla. They didn't have the best opening, but they're back above, or they're retesting that trend line, I should say. And Tom, they're not going down without a fight.
Yeah, they're not. And it looks like they might try to get back up above here. And if they do, and then they can break 800, I mean, I'm really waiting for a breakout with Tesla. It's been a long time since they've been able to have that solid type of breakout type of movement. And they haven't been around their all-time highs in a long time, to be honest. Like let's see, the last time they were around all-time highs was January 22nd. And honestly, like we're almost approaching a whole year since Tesla was at 900. So that's kind of crazy to think about, Mike. You know, it's crazy to say that because with how much we trade and how much we're in the market, it's just seems like just yesterday Tesla was at $900. But that's insane to see. And I'm glad it's coming back up today. I think that there's a lot of potential for some intraday movement, but I mean, look at that. It's actually having trouble breaking this trend line here, even on the intraday chart, which is a little strange. I figured that it would have, you know what I mean? I drew this on the daily, so I didn't think that the intraday would hold up this well, but hey, it looks like it's lining up perfect.
Yeah. And then we have, Tom, guess what we're about to look at next? We have UPST. We have Alex saying, can you look at UPST? This stock is very interesting to say the least. You know, it's been such a powerhouse, but you know, Tom, I think we're getting closer to the end of this thing's crazy uptrend. And I know we've been saying that for a while. It just keeps going straight up. But it's looking relatively weak to me. It doesn't mean it's going to tank 10% today. But, you know, it could only keep this crazy uptrend for so long.
Yeah, it's really looking like it might start to turn over to the downside. And, you know, you might get faked out again here. If you get an entry on some puts, you might get faked out. But I honestly think it's worth the risk here. You know, like if this stock ends up falling pretty drastically, I mean, you can make quite a bit on those puts, or even if you made it into a spread, I mean, you can make quite a bit on this one if it starts to fall. So definitely good potential. And it's honestly had a great resistance here at $340. So I'm with you. It's looking really, really weak, especially on the daily chart. And if it starts to fall below like $310, I'm going to really start looking at it for some puts. And man, it's like I said, I think it's even worth the risk. Like even if you end up, you know, like let's say you end up losing like $500 if it starts to fly up, I think that the potential to make a few grand on the way down is a lot bigger. So either way, to me, it's worth the risk, but it's just such a crazy setup, Mike. It's going to be a tough one.
Yep. All right, we have Keisha saying cashed in on PAYX this morning. Where do you guys see it going next? So PAYX, I haven't looked at this one in forever. It's up like 6% on the day. Honestly, I don't really follow it too much, but technically speaking, it is kind of breaking out. There is a little bit of resistance, right? Or actually, I would say there's a pretty strong resistance right around like 118.
Yeah, I've actually never even heard of this company before, but that resistance at 118 is going to be pretty strong right around that all-time high. And it looks like on the daily chart here, we bounced off that 100 SMA and came back to the upside. It actually had a pretty bad fake out. Like it had a bad move to the downside, and then those earnings really propelled it back up. So it's nice to see that they had good earnings. That's always a good thing to see, and I hope that they can do well, but I've never heard of them.
Alrighty, so looking at the overall market today, Tom, the SPY is up around 0.5%. It's trying to pop back up, but there is a lot of resistance overhead. We have that 437 level that we're getting very close to, and the market struggled a lot at this point yesterday. You know, we saw like 3 to 4 bounces just at 437 alone. So definitely keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, for sure. And the good news is that we broke that in pre-market, but you know, we even had trouble getting back above it at open again. And really watch for this. If we break 437 to the upside, guys, we might be able to catch a pretty nice momentum play, possibly up to, I would think pretty easily up to 438. But I would like to think that we could get to 439 if we do end up breaking out there. The setup looks pretty good. And yeah, yesterday, I love how you pointed that out, Mike. There was like 3 touches at 437 on the upper hand, and on the bottom of the level, we bounced off 434 3 times. So it's like yesterday was trading perfectly between a range, and today it's honestly traded between that range again so far. And we just have to wait for a nice break, I think, above 437.
You know it. And then we have G saying, just for here, have you guys talked about FAMI yet? So just got here. So FAMI, let's take a look. No, we have not talked about it yet. It's a penny stock. It's up like 50% on the day. To be honest, I haven't really ever heard of this company. Not sure why it's running like this. Let me take a look at the news. Oh, it looks like they're being acquired. So that's pretty good. I mean, it looks good. I mean, the momentum's good. We don't really trade penny stocks too much, but the news is pretty solid.
Yeah, and it could be good for a nice quick momentum play. I don't think I'd hold it too long, but that news does sound pretty promising. But you know, you can see here, if you can get into this at the right time and maybe catch a nice like 3 to 5 cent or even 10 cent upswing with this. It could be a pretty decent play, but it's just not the stock for me. Very volatile. And I will say though, ever since that news came out, it's had great moves. So I'm not discounting it at all. It's just it's not my personal favorite.
Gotcha. All right, so we have Rick saying stocks not moving in VIXY getting killed. This sucks. Well, yeah, I mean yeah, it does kind of suck actually. Like looking at the SPY, it's not really moving too much. The VXX is taking off, VIXY taking off. Yeah, I mean it's just it's an interesting market we're in because it's not like we're booming to the upside, and at the same time, it's not like we're crashing, down, like big time. You know what I mean? Like we're stuck in this like middle ground where we're not going up, we're not going down. Some days we have the market boom up, some days it tanks off, and like the market just doesn't know what it wants to do.
Yeah, it really doesn't. There's a lot of big catalysts in play right now. And, you can go to the front page of CNBC like I just did, and you can just find all this crazy news coming out. Congress moves to prevent a government shutdown with deadline just hours away. So that's going to be a pretty scary thing to hear today. Powell and Yellen are testifying live before the House committee again, just like they have been for the past few days. And they've been just creating so much weird movement in the market. And there's so much stuff here. It says Senate reaches a deal to avoid a government shutdown. I don't know if that just came out or not. It says it updated 2 hours ago, but that sounds like pretty good news, to me. But either way, there's just so much stuff going on here. We have to see what happens with Congress and all this stuff. And I'll be honest, I'm probably going to be watching C-SPAN all day, Mike. I'm going to be watching Congress just talk. It's going to be a boring day probably, but I really hope to get some insight into what's happening because it seems like that they're really playing a big role in the markets right now. And the SPY is just so choppy. I feel like just waiting for them to make a move that I feel like they have to make something happen one way or the other pretty soon. And like they're saying here, they're expecting to have something passed today or at some point tonight.
All righty. So then we have Jorge saying SPCE continues to climb slowly. It's approaching that $25.50 level. So yeah, it's looking pretty good, up 12% on the day. I'm definitely seeing a lot of momentum with this one and tons of volume coming in. IVs on the rise. It does look to have a lot of resistance pretty soon though. What do you think?
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of resistance heading into where we are. The good news is that we kind of like gapped down from like 35 kind of down to like $27. So there is a little bit of a gap to fill if we can break like the 28 resistance here back to the upside. But looking at it, there's definitely a lot of resistances coming up, and we're just going to be between a lot of these key areas, which is it's just not a good thing to see in the short term. But as we start to go up, I feel like that there's going to be a lot of potential for SPCE. And like that news suggests, the FAA concluded their probe into SPCE, and they cleared them for future launches. So that's great to hear. And hopefully as they start to make new dates and stuff, that'll make the stock fly up. But I'll be honest, I think it's a pretty good pickup for the long term at these prices. It's just, keep in mind, SPCE is just it's one of like the first space stocks that ever came out. And just keep in mind, it's a space tourism company. It's not like they're going into space to try to take over the moon or to take over Mars like Elon Musk wants to do with SpaceX and stuff. So, it's not like they're doing stuff like that, which makes me, it worries me a little bit with this stock, Mike. I don't know about you, but I've been looking really hard lately at a couple other stocks. If you guys are into space stocks, ASTR has been pretty promising lately. I know that their stock has been really going to the downside, which isn't good, but they've had a lot of good launches and stuff. And another one is RKLB, which is Rocket Lab. Now, this company's actually had a lot of momentum lately, and even today, it's up 7.5%.
Gotcha. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I just don't really follow SPCE too much. Like, I just feel like other sectors have more room to grow, like, especially in, like, a quicker time frame. Some of those sectors would be electric vehicles. We have sports betting, MJ, data, and like artificial intelligence, and even the solar industry. So I just feel like there's like other plays and that I just like better. I don't really necessarily like hate SPCE or any of the other space stocks, but at the same time, I'm not super bullish on them. But that doesn't mean they're bad. I just like other areas of the market.
Yeah, and space is definitely going to be big. Like if
Right.
Like there's going to be a lot of other things coming out too, like obviously like SpaceX, like whenever that comes out. Now that'll be the first, I think, true space stock that people could truly get behind, if unless something else comes out before it. But like people are really waiting for some good innovation here. They don't want to see, like I know SPCE is a cool stock and all, but it's a tourism company, and you only get to go into space for like a few minutes, then you have to come right back and stuff like that. If you could actually get up and like maybe stay out there for a while and stuff, it would be pretty cool, I think. But there's going to be lots of stuff coming in the future, and like Mike said, right now these stocks they're just not too bullish for the long term yet. But once we start to see some truly innovative companies, like maybe like some mining companies, or maybe like maybe some new like rocket company, maybe like Rocket Lab, like RKLB, like if we start to see some new technology or something, it could be awesome.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, so then we have Hunter saying both DraftKings and Palantir are red, so that sucks to see. Lots of selling pressure coming into both of them lately. And then he also said KMX is slapped, down 10% on the day. Looks like they just reported earnings, so that looks pretty rough. I'm looking at some of the news right now. Yeah, it looks like their earnings drop, revenue jumps, and shares are falling. So oh, they actually bought like $220 million worth of their shares back in the second quarter. I mean, just like briefly like jumping or looking through their earnings doesn't look too bad. I mean, their sales rose and their profit fell. So that's obviously not good, but I'll look into their earnings a little bit more after the stream. But yeah, it definitely sucks to see.
Yeah, and one big thing that's going to affect CarMax is those used car prices right now. Those things have been flying out of control. We can see the last time KMX reported earnings, they had a 2.63 EPS, which blew estimates out of the water. And this time they didn't even hit their estimate. So it's a really weird situation right now. And that used car market's definitely going to be weird for CarMax. So keep that in mind. That's probably why they were at all-time highs, was because the used car market was doing great. But keep in mind, at some point, that used car market's going to come back down. And when it does, CarMax's stock is probably going to come back down like it just did.
Alrighty, so looking at everything, it looks like we are still seeing a lot of momentum from SPCE, and then we're also seeing GameStop fall off the board a little bit. It's down 3% on the day, and it looks to just be like slowly fading off with GME. It's not like a violent crash, but it's definitely a relatively big down day, and this one has been definitely struggling lately, like even compared to AMC.
Yeah, it really has. AMC has actually had a little bit of momentum at least, but GameStop has just had a lot of problems, like you said, and looks like they're going to be coming back down and retesting that 150 support possibly sometime over the next couple weeks. It's not looking good, and on the daily, it's really starting to turn over to the downside. I could really see this one continuing to go.
Yeah, it's looking pretty rough. IV's actually really starting to fade off too. So yeah, it's unfortunate to see, but I don't know. Just definitely keep it on your radar. It's down 3.5% on the day. Let's do a check-in with AMD, Tom, because I know that one had some pretty big news right before the bell, and looks to be doing pretty good.
Yeah, they're actually leading my watch list today to the upside with FUV and then NVIDIA right below them. But this is a pretty good move up for AMD. That news with Google is going to be pretty big, I think. And obviously these new EPYC processors are pretty awesome. And I really think AMD for the long term is going to be great. But one thing that's even better with AMD is how they bounced off that $100 support. That was such a key support, especially on the max daily chart. It was such a great pickup there if anyone had bought at that level. So, congrats to anybody who did pick them up. But that's a great move back, and they're actually consolidating right at this 104 resistance, and then also right at this 1000 SMA. So it looks like if we could break out above like 104.40 this morning, I think we could see a pretty big pop out of AMD. Even again, this news with Google is pretty good, and I could see him going up more than 3%, or it might take until tomorrow for him to keep going. But either way, I could see this trend continuing up, especially with that bounce on support.
Here we go. And then we have Rick saying Manchin slams the $3.5 trillion deal, so it looks like no deal on infrastructure.
Wow, that's actually a really bad thing to hear. And look at SPY start to really tank off to the downside, Mike, with that type of news. Look at this come in on the 1 minute chart. That is not good to see. I know that's going to hurt all these other stocks like CHPT as well as they start to break down to their daily lows as well. Yeah, they're breaking through that 20 support. Man, it's not looking good right now. I wonder how BLNK is looking as well. Looks like they have some red on the 1 minute. If they start to break below their 28 support, that'll look bad too. And man, this is not good to see for the overall market, Mike. I know that people were really looking for this infrastructure bill to get passed, and there's lots of other stuff coming out today with these bills and stuff. And yeah, I'm still not seeing it on CNBC yet, but either way, that's a really scary scenario, Mike. And it's tough. You know, it's a really tough situation. But keep in mind that was the infrastructure bill. I wonder what they're going to do with like the debt ceiling, Mike, because we have a lot of this stuff going on right now with a possible government shutdown. And I know the infrastructure bill was totally different than that. So hopefully they can get that shutdown bill passed at least. That might be a good revelation, but it's not looking good right now for the overall market at all.
Yep, and then Hunter just said, shout out to Manchin for some cash secured put opportunities. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Hunter, and here comes the market sliding down a little bit. Was about to test that 437 resistance, but looks like that will not be the case. We are about to test that 434 support, and it's just, we're in a weak market, Tom. You know, I know for the past 2 years, for the most part, the market has just been going straight up. You know, a lot of people are used to, you know, like the crazy recovery, like especially after COVID, where anything you buy just goes straight up. But, you know, I think that a lot of people are going to be disciplined over the next couple weeks and learn that, you know, the market just doesn't always go straight up. Because I know some people have been, you know, who are relatively new to trading and have only been in bull markets. So either way, it is important to have hedges in place and to understand how to hedge yourself. You have to find out where your exposure is, and then you could hedge from there. But looking at the market overall, we're definitely looking pretty weak.
Yeah, it looks pretty weak. And like you said on the daily, it's starting to really turn over in a bad way. We have bad news coming out of Congress. And, you know, there's just bad news across the board with Congress, with Powell talking about inflation and all this bad stuff going on. And look at the SPY on the daily chart here. I mean, man, it's consolidating right on the 100 SMA. And you can see like it's really trying to hold this level as best as it can. But to me, it just looks like if we get one bad move to the downside through this, I mean, it's just going to be on an accelerated move down. So it's a scary situation. You know, I really feel like that we're going to end up breaking this to the downside. And I hope that's not the case, but with everything going on, all these catalysts, especially with Manchin coming out now and saying that, coming out and pretty much striking down this infrastructure bill, that's a pretty bad thing to hear, at least for right now, with all these shutdowns and stuff going on. And it's just a bad scenario, Mike. It's a really crazy time to trade, though. You know, it's going to be crazy. If you guys are new to the market, it might be a good time to just, maybe sit back and maybe watch for the next couple of weeks, because you might see movement and different scenarios go on that you've never seen before. And one good thing, or a couple good things to trade, might be like VXX, UVXY, and just a couple of those type of hedge plays.
Gotcha. All right, we have Ashura saying, this is cool. I didn't know you guys did live stream. So, yeah, we've been streaming every day for a little while now. Let us know how you found out about how we do live streams. Was it through Discord or just the Stocked Up Live channel or the video on the main channel? Definitely let us know. And then they said Uber's getting clapped. So let's take a look. Uber down 1% on the day. It's definitely been struggling over the past couple months. It's not looking the best. It had a nice pop up last week, but besides that, it's definitely not looking too good. I'm just looking at a couple different like support and resistance levels really quickly. I mean, it's probably not too bad for some cash secured puts, but besides that, it doesn't really have like any like really strong momentum in either direction.
Yeah, it's not moving too much either way. It had a lot of momentum to the upside though a couple weeks ago, and then now it's just kind of consolidating back. And I could see it going back up over the next couple weeks, but like Mike said, it's just kind of sitting flat right now. And I see a pretty big support coming up around $43 if we keep going down.
Gotcha. Alrighty, so looking at everything, my watch list is, I don't want to say split 50-50, but it's a little bit more green than red, but, really it's just being led by, like, AMD, Run, and, like, NVIDIA. That news with AMD was clutch this morning.
Yeah, that was actually really good for them. And especially with the way the SPY and stuff's falling down, if AMD didn't get this good news, they could be falling well below that $100 support right now. So I'm glad to see that they had this news to kind of keep them up. And it really held NVIDIA up too. It seems like NVDA moved very well off that news. But you know who didn't move well off that news was Intel, Mike. I know Intel hates that type of news with AMD, but you can see it open. Intel had a bad move to the downside, but they ended up popping back up pretty nicely as well. And I'll be honest, or I should say Intel looks like one of the better pickups here on the daily anyways. At least you're getting them a lot lower than a lot of the other stocks. I honestly think this is in a pretty good long-term setup.
All right, so Tom, we have Vicky coming in saying the $1 billion infrastructure bill has been approved weeks ago. The $3.5 billion waste bill cannot, should not, and will not be approved ever. Stop being scared, Tom. So, yeah, I mean, the market's fallen off that news a little bit, but yeah, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm not scared at all. I'm just going by what I'm seeing. You know, the SPY's dying here on this news, and I don't know. I don't think anybody's scared, Vicky. I don't even care, to be honest. Like, it doesn't bother me. You know, I'm always in some hedge plays and stuff. UVXY will help me out if the market goes down. So either way, I don't know. I'm just looking for a break of support here with the SPY. If we break 434 and if Congress shuts down, I mean, we could see a pretty bad thing go on. And, you know, I know she's saying that, that infrastructure bill has been approved weeks ago, but they still haven't passed it. You know, there's got to be voting and stuff going on, and it can definitely still affect the market, just like we're seeing this morning. And I'm not scared, like, for sure. So there's not any scaredness going on here. It's just I'm just looking at the market objectively. I'm looking here at Apple at all-time highs. I'm looking at Microsoft. I'm looking at these big stocks all falling to the downside, and it's just worrisome. You know, it's bad to see when the SPY's at all-time highs, and it's starting to fall off like this. It's not good. And then we have all this fighting in Congress and this and that. And it's just a bad time. You know, I'd be really careful. If you're super bullish on the market, you really might want to pick up some hedge plays, or else you might get pretty hurt over the next couple months.
All right, and then we have Vicky saying the real bill was approved and saying, love you, Tom. So it's all fun and games. Thanks so much, Vicky. And then we have Hunter saying in all caps, let the record show there is no scaredness. Oh, gosh. So, yeah, either way, the market's relatively weak right now. We're in I guess you could say, a volatile political climate. The market doesn't know what it wants to do. It's pretty overbought. Tech stocks are struggling a little bit. We're seeing new news every day, and it's just, I feel like we're seeing a lot of uncertainty, not only with, politics, but just, valuations in the market, and then just everything, Evergrande situation. So lots of uncertainty in the markets right now. Then we have Jorge coming in saying SPCE breaking 26. So yes, it is up 15% on the day, and man, this has a lot of great momentum.
And man, it just keeps going to the upside. I cannot believe that we're seeing this again. Honestly, 26 is a pretty big resistance for SPCE. So be really careful around this level. I know it's breaking it up, but we saw it hit around like 26.30 the other day and then come back down. So be a little careful. We're right around resistance, but what a great move to the upside. I mean, after hours yesterday and then pre-market today and then at open, I mean, this was a great move up. And man, I'm so glad to see this, but it just sucks to see it happening while the SPY's falling off like this. But I'm so glad to see SPCE up, and that news with the FAA was awesome for them. I hope that they start making some more launch dates, and I hope that their stock can get going again, because they had that big offering, I think it was like $500 million share offering a while ago, Mike, and it really sent their stock to the downside. And I'm really hoping for a nice recovery here over the next few months. And I think for the long term, SPCE is at a good level to buy. But the question is do you like them for the long term? That's the main thing. So if you do like them, I think it's a great time to buy. But if you don't like them, I would say just wait for better space stocks.
Yeah, I think that's a great input right there. So great stuff to see. Looking at everything, I've been looking at my watch list quite a bit this morning. Really, the only real momentum I'm seeing is with SPCE. So, do you see anything else, Tom? Is there anything on your radar, or anything you see that's moving in a big way, or anything?
Yeah, let's go check it out. And I mean, I do have Netflix kind of moving up pretty well too. And Netflix actually broke their all-time high to the upside this morning, Mike, which is pretty surprising. They hit that 619 level today, came right back down, but that's very nice to see. I don't think a lot of people were expecting to see Netflix kind of break out like this. And I know yesterday it was getting really close and people were looking at possible like put opportunities and stuff with them. And man, it's had a lot of momentum. And I cannot believe that we're saying this again. And especially on a day while the SPY is down, that Netflix is at all-time highs. I think that's really blowing my mind today. And it's I can't even explain why. I'm not even seeing any big news or anything behind it yet today. Maybe something from yesterday, but I know that they had news about that video game about video games a while ago. Mike, didn't they say that they were going to start getting into that gaming sector?
Yeah, so they I forgot the exact what the exact headline was, but they like hired a couple like big executives, and they're starting like a Netflix like gaming part of their subscription, which I think will be pretty big. And I think that's a good addition onto their platform overall. But yeah, they're just like adding games onto Netflix, which should be pretty cool. And either way, the stock's been recovering pretty well.
Yeah, and that's a great move to all-time highs, and I'm sure that news played some role in that. And meanwhile, we can go check out a stock like Disney, which is only up 0.13% today, and you can see their movement on the daily chart has been a lot worse than Netflix is. And I feel like a lot of people were expecting Disney with Disney Plus to do a lot better than Netflix in the short term, but it looks like it's honestly the opposite way around, at least for right now. But man, honestly, like Netflix is just, I cannot believe the strength that they're showing. And like I said, with Netflix, AMD, Nvidia, and all these stocks green, it's hard for me to say that the SPY is red, but it's just all these catalysts going on with Congress and stuff. And I think that's going to be the main things that's on my radar, Mike. I'm really just waiting to see what happens with Congress and all this stuff. And the SPY did turn around, so that's awesome to see. And I'm glad to see that it turned around like that. I know that people have been waiting for this news to come out for a while, and I know that this it was really scary to hear for those few minutes that bill might get shot down. But look at the SPY coming right back. It's just showing its strength.
Alrighty. Yeah, lots of buyers coming right back in. Just like we were saying, the market doesn't know what it wants to do. Sometimes it's trending down, sometimes it's trending up. And let's say we, have like a bad sell-off over the next hour, we might see a recovery, 5 minutes later. So it's all over the place. So yeah, good stuff there. Then we have Brian saying, do you think Wish in Clove is dead? I mean, I don't want to say I think they're dead, but I think they're pretty close to being dead. I was really looking at Clove for like a potential pop back up like a month ago, but there's just so much selling pressure coming in. And keep in mind, like these plays move off of hype, just like AMC and GameStop and all the other hype stocks. When they exploded, they were popping because everyone was talking about them. Like the retail traders were loading up. But you look back on Wall Street Bets now, and there's a new stock, a new hot stock every single day. So just the power that Wall Street Bets has is pretty diluted. It's just like instead of seeing like one powerful explosion, we see like a bunch of stocks that pop up for a day and then just sell off big time. So with that being said, like, the way that I guess you could say, I don't want to say the culture, but like what Wall Street Bets did like earlier in 2021 is completely different than what it does now.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big difference now from what it used to be. And the biggest thing is like Mike said, it's all hype driven right now. If you can generate that hype, whether it's good earnings, a good catalyst, or just good news coming out in general, it'll really help these stocks. But for right now, they are kind of falling off. I was really thinking that Wish.com could end up doing a lot better than it did. But like you said, they're not dead yet. They're just currently bleeding out. So it's just a really hard scenario. If you like it for the long term, the good news is that they're at new lows, but at the same time, they're at new lows because of just how bad they've been. So it's a hard scenario. Personally, I would say just stay away. I like a lot of these companies like CHPT, Blink, maybe RUN. I just think those are a lot safer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of better opportunities out there, but it all comes down to your risk tolerance, so definitely keep that in mind. And then we have, let's see, Jorge saying Tesla moving. So yeah, it's up like 0.65% on the day. Not doing too bad. Then we have James saying, great job, awesome live. Please levels for Moderna and Pfizer. So mRNA, I've actually been eyeing this one for like a short play. It's below 400, which is pretty big. Looking at a couple different levels, I would say the main one to watch out for is like 365. That'll be a pretty big support, and from 365 to where we are now, the only other like major support I'm seeing is like 380.
Yeah, same. I'm seeing 380 as well. And it looks like that's holding up right now. If we can fall below that, we'll see that nice move down to 365. And I really like this, Mike, to the downside. I think it looks like a pretty good play. And I think it might consolidate here around $400 for a little while, but I really think it has a lot of potential to keep going down. And it seriously it's been up at these highs and it's been running for so long. And like we saw, at this time last year, this stock was sitting at right around like $70 a share. Let's just be safe. So $70 a share. Now we're at $383 a share, which is, it's honestly blown my mind the way the stock has moved up. If I calculate the percentage to where we are now, we're up 389%. And that's just 1 year's of movement, guys. That's crazy.
Yep. Alrighty. So then we have Adam saying, do you guys think Cathie Wood's ARK are still good? It all depends on what you're looking for. Like if you're looking for a nice, slow, steady, and safe return, then no, you're better off just buying like a bunch of different index funds and like the total stock market index. But if you're looking for, potential high growth plays that might have pretty big drawdowns, then I think ARKK is definitely a good possible investment. Like they do have some pretty good holdings. Like I know Coin, Unity, Zoom, DraftKings, Palantir, Tesla, Roku. It depends. Like I would just look through their holdings, but either way, ARK has been doing very well over the past couple years. Cathie Wood has done a great job. Love her or hate her, her funds have been performing very well. So I would say at the end of the day, it all comes down to one, your risk tolerance, and two, like where you're looking to invest. If you're looking for growth plays, I think it's definitely worth a look.
Yeah, I think it is too. And if you're looking at some of these more innovative stocks, kind of like what we've been seeing lately with like CHPT, BLNK, I'm not naming all of them off, but there's a lot of these stocks out that have been really like revolutionizing a lot of these different industries, and that's what Cathie Wood likes to buy with that ARK Innovation ETF, ARKK. It's generally like lower price growth stocks that can have a lot of upwards movement. But keep in mind, a lot of those stocks have been having downwards movement, like CHPT, huge moves to the downside, BLNK, lots of consolidation lately, even Palantir, lots of consolidation. So, you can see that happen though with these bigger stocks like the ARKK fund. And I do like this fund though for the long term personally. Like Mike said though, just look at their holdings and stuff, because if you don't like, these high moving growth stocks and stuff, then it's not going to be the play for you. But if you like these stocks like Blink, CHPT, like Mike was naming off some, even Palantir, Zoom, even like there's a lot of these stocks in here that have been going down, but they might be due to rise a lot in the future. But just keep in mind, they go up a lot, they go down a lot. And the good news is that you're buying ARKK around support, which is good.
Yep, and then Vic even, she mentioned DraftKings, which ARK is definitely holding. She said your loved share company. Yeah, I love DraftKings, especially for the long term. And, Cathie, I think definitely sees potential in them as well, as she's been buying up shares lately. So that's great to see. We have Iranical saying possibility of $110 for AMD by the end of tomorrow. So AMD, $110, definitely unlikely. For the exact percentage of seeing AMD, here, let me change it real quick. So the probability of seeing AMD close above $110 tomorrow is around 3.5%. So pretty unlikely, and that's what the market is expecting.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to move much higher than that either. I was trying to guess in my head, Mike, while you were finding those numbers, and I was guessing something like 5%. So not too far off, but honestly, like I couldn't see it doing that either. There's so many resistances overhead, also Iranical. Like this 108 resistance is so strong that even if we had a great move up tomorrow, I don't think that we'll be able to get up above 108. Like that's honestly just such a big resistance there. And then there's also another one like at 107. So I just feel like there's lots of overhead areas that we could possibly bounce off of as well. And the thing is though, that news with Google is great. So, with catalysts like that, sometimes you do see those big moves, but so far today, we're only up 2.9% out of a deal with Google. So, I've seen AMD rise a lot more than this before. So I would think that if we were going to see that move, we might have seen a bigger move happen already.
All right, so Tom, do you have any last minute stocks, options, or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
I'm really keeping my eye on these stocks like AMC. Well, I shouldn't say AMC, but they're just dying off today. So I'm really watching them to the downside, possibly, maybe for some puts like we talked about a little earlier in the beginning of the episode. I hope that doesn't make anybody angry, though. AMC is just, they've just not been looking good the past week. It's just been a little bit of a downturn for them, to say the least. But CHPT, I'm really going to be eyeing them up. They're falling through that support today. If that infrastructure bill does end up getting passed, I know that there's been lots of news coming out, Mike, while we've been live that we might have to catch up on. But if that bill does end up getting passed, I think CHPT, Blink, and a lot of these other companies can end up going back to the upside. Also eyeing up Lucid today. They're having a pretty big pullback, down 2.7%. And it's just creating some good opportunities, I feel like, out of some of these higher growth stocks. Even CCL today, Mike, is down another 2.7%. They're kind of getting back to those levels they were at before earnings.
Good stuff. And then we have Keisha saying EA is still going nuts. I was actually looking at this one earlier, and yeah, they're definitely popping off, up 2% on the day. And talk about a great recovery.
Yeah, that's awesome to see. This one actually really surprised me again, and we broke out above that 1,000 SMA on the 15-minute chart. And man, I hope that new game does well for them, because they've been honestly rocketing so much back to the upside that, I mean, man, I really wish I would have bought that dip now.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. We had a great stream, and the market's all over the place. So thank you guys so much for watching, and have an amazing day.